All right. I can't seem to keep my pens over here. Somebody always taking my pen. And I know I set them right over here beside my book yesterday. All right, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. It is April the 13th, 2022, day 81 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1099. Today, we're going to finish up the introduction of the OAHSPE, I think. And we're going to finish the intro. And then we're going to start in the next section of the meditation book. Also, Levine, hey girl, hey, blessings. Look, came in the mail yesterday, the part 2 of the complete Anunnaki Bible, right? So I looked through it, and there are more tablets. Now, I'm not sure when we're going to get to this. Y'all might just have to order it because for the next few months, well, probably for the rest of the year, we're going to be in the OAHSPE, right? If not, going into 2023. And then after we read the meditation book on the second half of class, it's another one that we have to read. So I'm not sure if we're going to get to this at all because what's lined up, I have to see. But if you want to see what's in it, I recommend that you just go ahead and get your own copy from Amazon. I ordered it the day before yesterday. It literally came yesterday. So it was a really quick turnaround. But yeah, there are more tablets inside of it. Is Liber 51 and 52 as well as Liber 50. And it goes through some of the things that were alluded to in the first one. And it also has in here, like in the appendix on page 181, it's a whole chapter in here called The Ladder of Lights, right? And initiations of the ancient mystery schools, which we're starting to get into now. It didn't mention this before, but I'm telling you how all this stuff goes and connects together. I was super excited when I read the table of contents when this came yesterday. I'm like, yo, so I had to tell y'all about it just in case we don't get to it for another year or so. But if you want to see what's in it, you got to order your own copy. I don't know. We'll just see. I ain't taking it off the table. I'm just saying it'll be a while before we can get to it and read it together out loud, but it's there. All right, y'all. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started today. Father, thank you for another day. Help us to apply all that we learn to our lives. And may we grow. All right, y'all. So we paused on page 15 of the, let me put that in here because I keep forgetting to write the translation of the Roman numeral. 15. Okay. All right. So we paused on like the second column. 1, 2, third paragraph. All right. So remember, it's going through the how this was translated or created in the first place through Dr. Newbro's like overshadowing of the spirit. So, and it was a product of automatic writing. Like somebody can feel the overshadowing of the spirit of Yah and they can prophesy, like truly not those that's faking the funk, but you actually feel a presence come over you, and then you are enlightened with information that you did not previously know before, nor did you study, right? Okay, so that's what happened here, but this time he was writing, right? As they call it, automatic writing. Okay. Let me just go back up a paragraph. Okay. It would be logical to assume that the angelic overshadowing who cultivated Dr. Newbro's development for the specific task of transmitting OAHSPE would also develop other mediums for the same purpose at the same time. It would seem unnecessarily risky to place all of your hopes for so important a task upon one individual, and by nurturing several mediums at the same time, it would be easier to determine who had developed the qualities most suited for their purpose. Remember what our understanding of mediums is, not like in the whole form of witchcraft type medium like wizard and what we're taught in the church for the most part. A medium is simply a conduit, somebody who's available at the right time. We're going to use you, like you were there, so we used you. Not because you have, you may need to have some kind of skill, but the person that's most qualified at the right place at the right time, unseen forces would choose to use them as the conduit to get whatever message it is across, right? Because if you were, let's not even get into it, but I guess you had to have some kind of qualification for what needed to be done in order for the spirit to fall on you, particularly. Tiffany, hey girl, hey mom. Shalom, Uncle JB, Grand Rising. Okay. So remember, that's what it means by medium here, right? Okay. It would seem unnecessarily risky to place all your hopes for so important a task upon one individual, and by nurturing several mediums at the same time, it would be easier to determine who had developed the qualities most suited to their purpose. There is ample evidence to suggest that this may well have been their methodology, since several highly developed mediums living at that time also received high-quality communications, some of which included information similar to aspects of the messages Dr. Newborough received. We believe these other writings support and confirm the value of OAHSPE and suggest that other individuals were being cultivated simultaneously for the same possible purpose. Even OAHSPE states that other people in other places would be inspired similarly and that they would be brought together. Okay. Although it seems that other avenues may have been explored, it is evident that Dr. Newbrough displayed the right degree of development at the right time, and consequently, the task of producing OAHSPE was placed in his hands. It is worth reiterating that this was not done because he was a high-raised prophet or saint, but because he was simply a very talented and highly developed medium in the right place at the opportune moment. OAHSPE was not his book. There is every reason to believe that the information it offered was as much news to him as it was to other people who read it, and he was as much impressed by its message as anyone else. It was for this reason that he decided to undertake the building of his community called Shalom, taken from the parable describing the society of the future in OAHSPE's Book of Shalom. He was told by the angelic overshadowing administering the OAHSPE project that the world at that time had not yet reached a level of development amenable to the ideals of Shalom. But if he wanted to try and build such a community, it was certainly his choice and he was free to do so. Perhaps Dr. Newbrough was overconfident. Perhaps his enthusiasm for OAHSPE clouded his judgment. It does seem, however, that he did attempt to follow the example of the Book of Shalom too literally. Within several short years, April 23rd, 1891, Dr. Newbrough died from pneumonia secondary to influenza. Not long after his death, Dr. Newbro's experimental community failed. His most loyal co-worker, Andrew Howland, tried to carry on, but eventually surrendered to grim reality and closed Shalom in 1907. The original manuscript of OAHSPE, as well as the oil portraits of the prophets Newbro painted automatically during his early years at Shalom, no longer exists. One story relates that these items had been stored in the basement of a house in El Paso, Texas. A mudslide from a severe storm washed into the house, completely destroying the manuscript and paintings. Another story, but probably closer to the truth, relates that Newbro's daughter, Justine, who had possession of these items, but who was known to harbor bitter feelings about her Shalom experience, impulsively destroyed them one day in a backyard bonfire to dispose of them. Either way, what is obvious is that no special value had been placed on these items by anyone involved, or else greater care would have been taken to preserve them. Perhaps they were considered superfluous, since the manuscript and portrait had already been published. Perhaps the angelic overshadowing, still overseeing ongoing developments, actually wanted these remaining objects destroyed. Clearly, the act decisively eliminated any possibility that anyone might eventually possess these items as coveted relics and assume unwarranted authority or legitimacy as sole interpreter of the text, an idea antithetical to the teachings of OAHSPE. The Rio Grande Historical Collections, under the auspices of New Mexico State University at Las Cruces, I probably pronounced that wrong, Cruces, Cruz. The Rio Grande Historical Collections, under the auspices of New Mexico State University at Las Cruces, has become a valuable source for historical information relating to Shalom. And Shalom, I think I spelled it yesterday. It's almost like Shalom, but it's Shallam. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. I definitely have to do something. I feel like it's probably gross. I feel like a buildup of mucus trying to come on. So the last couple of days, I'm like, okay, I gotta do something to clear myself up, because this cannot go any further. Okay, who's that? Robin Bird, Shalom. I see Belinda Brown, Shalom, Shalom. Okay. OAHSPE is easily the most unique book in the English language. Its objective is formidable, for it states that within its pages it has herein made known the plan of the Creator's delightful creations for the resurrection of the peoples of the earth. OAHSPE also states that the book's purpose is to teach mortals how to attain to hear the Creator's voice and to see his heavens in full consciousness while still living on the earth, and to know of a truth, the place and condition awaiting them after death. That's clearly the path we are on. We've been seeking, right? That's probably good words to put that in. Okay, hold on. I'll read it again. OAHSPE is easily the most unique book in the English language. Its objective is formidable, for it states that within its pages it has herein made known the plan of the Creator's delightful creations for the resurrection of the peoples of the earth. OAHSPE also states that the book's purpose is to teach mortals how to attain to hear the Creator's voice and to see his heavens in full consciousness while still living on the earth, and to know of a truth, the place and condition awaiting them after death. Okay. I like to leave it open until the sun starts shining too bright. Okay. As awe-inspiring as the possibility of such a revelation may be, OAHSPE reminds us that we should not worship this book, for it states not infallible, immaculate is this book, OAHSPE. We should, therefore, not allow ourselves to fall into the trap of making it into an inflexible rule book to be quoted chapter and verse, which would negate our fundamental obligation to think, reason, and to grow. Rather, we should use this volume as a guide to further our own spiritual understanding and as a source for basic, fundamental principles that can be used to shape and mold our future development. We are confident that there is enough substance within its pages to provide for our growth throughout our mortal lives and well beyond that as well. The text infers that the host of high-raised angelic beings who caused OAHSPE to be written and published were commissioned specifically for that purpose by those above them who administer the higher heavens. OAHSPE states that Earth is just one of countless planets in our universe inhabited by human beings. It also states that all planets follow a similar pattern of development, though the details differ substantially. Wherever humanity does arise, it eventually reaches a stage of development called Kosmon, Kosmon. I actually have, it's a book. I ordered it quite a few months ago. It's actually called, I think it's called cosmology, something like that. But it has to do with the luminaries and stuff. I ordered it while I was still doing a whole lot of deep research while studying through the luminary chapters in the book of Enoch. And I came across that, going through some things, just kind of looking into, and that kind of kept popping up. So I was like, maybe I need to get this. It's a nice little thick book. I haven't completely gone through it because while studying, I get, not that I stopped studying this, but while I'm studying a certain thing, it takes me down this certain path, and I just kind of like pause this for a moment. I'm going to have to come back to it. But to go further here, I have to go here a little bit further to kind of understand up until this point so I can go further here, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm kind of at with that. So I got to go back to it once I get done down this particular path, bringing all this information at this point, so it'll allow me to go further because my understanding has broadened a little bit. It has broadened a little bit more. Francis, shalom. Okay. Wherever humanity does arise, it eventually reaches a stage of development called Kosmon, Kosmon, when spiritual and corporeal knowledge is ready to culminate into a state of natural maturity and balance. When this level of maturity is soon to begin, When this level of maturity is soon to begin evolving near the commencement of this era, the angelic hosts provide information that will complete this evolutionary process for the benefit of those individuals who have progressed enough to appreciate the transformative concepts offered. Their efforts to assist our coming of age take many forms, but one aspect includes clearing the air of falsehoods, half-truths, and misinformation about who we really are, where we came from, and where we are going. We clearly in this age. We clearly in the cosmic era. Okay. I'll read that again. Okay. Their efforts to assist our coming of age take many forms, but one aspect includes clearing the air of falsehoods, half-truths, and misinformation about who we really are, where we came from, and where we are going. To accomplish this task, OAHSPE begins with a history of our planet for the past 24,000 years and more, tracing events that occurred not only on Earth, but in the heavens surrounding the Earth during that same time period. OAHSPE states that corporeal events are much more influenced by events in the spirit world than any other way around. This is due in part to the fact that those who have crossed into the world of spirit are by nature still able to perceive and influence the corporeal plane, while those who are still in corporality are much less able to even perceive conditions in the spiritual dimension of existence, let alone influence it. Thus the saying, as above, so below. And if you spend any kind of time studying anything spiritually, if you hear the term, at least on the Christian side, if you hear the term as above, so below, say it like that, even though it's said just in different words in the Bible, they would lead you to believe that that entire saying, as above, so below, is completely wicked, completely of witchcraft and everything. But it's also said, it just said in different words, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, as above, so below, right? Now that I understand that, I can move a little bit further in some things that is coming to me, right? As above, so below, right? OAHSPE symbolically highlights this principle by physically arranging the text so that history on the spirit plane is superimposed above history on the corporeal plane during the same time cycle. Hence, remember we talked about how when you go through here, it seems to split the book. There's a whole story up here, which is representative as below, as above, and then another whole story as above, so below. So, y'all hear what I just said? As above, so below. Yeah. So the top part of this book is giving you what's happening in the spiritual realm, while the bottom half of the book is giving you what's happening on earth at that current time. So at this point, as I understand it, how we're going to read it, we're going to read a chapter from the as above, and then we'll read a chapter on the so below, right? So that's how we're going to do it as we get to those portions where it's split. So we can kind of like keep up. We're just going to kind of bounce back and forth, a chapter above, a chapter below, a chapter above, a chapter below, right? Instead of just reading all the above and coming back and reading all of the below. All right. Unless when we get through here, they tell us to read it another way. Then we'll follow what they say. Okay. OAHSPE symbolically highlights this principle by physically arranging the text so that the history on the spirit plane is superimposed above the history on the corporal plane during the same time cycle. For example, the book of APH appears above the Lord's first book, covering heavenly and earth history over the same time period. The book of Af is read first, followed by the Lord's first book. Okay, so maybe we do need to, let me read that again, make sure I understand that right. The book of Af is read first, followed by the Lord's first book. Heavenly history is then picked up again, and heavenly history is then picked up again by jumping ahead to the book of Su, and so on. Hold on, let me double check something. Make sure I understand this the right way. Page 59. Going to those two books. Okay. The book of Af and the Lord's first book. Okay. He said. Okay, let me see how many chapters. Ooh, they talking about talismans. Okay. How does that? Do they merge into one? 65 of their own. Oh, okay. So this ends. Okay. So the book of Af is longer than the book of the Lord's first book, which is why that the splitting stops, and the rest of this is the book of Af. And then we got to go back. Oh. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's how we got to read it, y'all. We got to read the heaven account first. So we got to read the book of Af first. And then after we done with that, we go back and read the earth account, which the first one is the Lord's first book. Okay. I got it. All right. I was going to figure it out. Okay. OAHSPE states that the Creator, and there is but one, regardless of the name you wish to use. I like how they said that. Hold on. OAHSPE states that the Creator, and there is but one, regardless of the name you wish to use, made humanity to be co-creators and helpmates in an ever-unfolding universe. Each and every one of us is in a new and pristine creation at the moment of conception. All of us are given a spark of the ever-present at that moment that makes us very much a part of our Creator, who is the essence of all life and all that is, was, or ever shall be. Though our awareness of life and spirit is clouded by the influence of our physical bodies and our necessity to deal with a physical environment through limited physical senses, we are actually spiritual beings here and now. This means that we are already residing in the dimension of spirit, thought, and mind, even though we are melded for the moment with a physical frame in the corporeal dimension of existence. That was just beautiful how he explained that. I'm loving this already, y'all. Exhale, shalom, barakah. Just as a fetus resides in a womb, which is the ideal environment in which to grow until it is strong enough to subsist on its own, our spirit is at first housed in a corporeal body until it is strong enough to subsist on its own in the eternal world of the spirit. Dana, hey girl, hey. Mabinya, shalom. Consequently, the reality is that the spiritual beings that are the real us enter the spirit world at death as easily as standing up from a chair, because the essence of our being already resides in the dimension of spirit, thought, and mind, even though that reality is not apparent to us. In other words, at the moment of death, we do not go anywhere because we are already there. We do not leave our physical body. Our physical body leaves us. Ooh, that might be our title for the day. We do not leave our physical body. Our physical body leaves us like a discarded shroud that is no longer of any use. We begin where we left off, unchanged, except for the renewed perfection of our spiritual bodies and with the same consciousness as before. Until then, it is only the temporary dullness of our spiritual senses caused by the influence of our physical shells that bellies our reality. Maybe that's it, it's belies. I think that might be belies. Belies. I think it's belies. Until then, it is only the temporary dullness of our spiritual senses that... Hold on. Until then, it is only the temporary dullness of our spiritual senses caused by the influence of our physical shells that belies that reality. All of us, regardless of who we are or how miserably we may have failed in life, are actually future angels in embryonic form, destined for an eternal life that progresses through endless realms of growth and experience. Even those unfortunates who die in infancy are never lost. Each of us is already an immortal soul from the moment of conception, the moment when the Creator's presence brings into being a new, eternally enduring, self-conscious soul. Each infant is nurtured in spirit, growing through childhood into mature adulthood, just as it would have had it remained in the mortal realm on earth. Even though it lost the experience of corporality in that process, its development remains happy, strong, and wholesome. Nevertheless, a fact that can be a comfort to mothers who grieve. Trina, hey girl, hey. Our growth and experience, however, starts here on the earth, and like all true progress, it is never an easy path nor attained without a struggle. The history handed down in the text of OAHSPE clearly illustrates this point and shows that earthly events are not as much random products of chance as they sometimes appear to be to us. Our development and growth have been monitored and guided by our Creator and by the Creator's high-raised angels in whose charge the ever-present has placed our care. OAHSPE concludes with several doctrinal books that give us guidelines that we may choose to live by to further our own progression. It finally gives a glimpse of our future in the book of Shalom, which, using a parable, describes what the society of the future will be like, though the actual details of how it arises and how it may develop depending on circumstances that may vary substantially from place to place. If you are able to comprehend OAHSPE's mind-expanding perspective on the universe that we inhabit, both now and in an eternal future, and if you are able to free your mind of the shackles of the limited teachings of the past, it will bring you to a state of understanding that will change your life. You will never see the earth, its people, or the stars above your head in the same way ever again. The Banner of Light letter. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to finish reading this because this is like the last portion of the intro, and we'll pause after this, y'all. Yeah, 31 minutes. The following is the text, selectively abridged, of the letter written by John B. Monroe to a publication called The Banner of Light, to explain in his own words how OAHSPE was received. Since Dr. Monroe is describing events as he perceived them, it is understandable that he should use phrases like, I was not satisfied, or I was craving, or I took it into my head. These personal references could lead one to think that somehow Dr. Monroe initiated the idea and facilitated the mechanism needed to produce a volume like OAHSPE, or that somehow his actions attracted angelic overshadowing to him as a flame would attract moths. This, of course, could be no further from the truth. The reality was that the planning process for the production of OAHSPE was in effect long before Dr. Monroe was even born, and that his role had been completely a reflection of the will and controlling influences of the angelic overshadowing that chose to use his natural talents to their advantage at a critical moment in time. While Dr. Monroe's involvement in the process is appreciated, it was purely serendipitous. The Elois Inc. 2016. And here is the letter. And at the end of the letter is actually the end of the intro. Okay. New York, January 21st, 1883. To the editor of The Banner of Light, Boston, Massachusetts. Dear Sir, OAHSPE was mechanically written through my hands by some other intelligence than my own. Many spiritualists are acquainted with this automatic movement of the hands, independent of one's own volition. There are thousands and thousands of persons who have this quality. It can be educated, or rather, the susceptibility to external power can be increased. In my own case, I discovered many years ago, when sitting in circles to obtain spiritual manifestations, that my hands could not lie on the table without flying off into these tantrums. Often they would write messages left or right, backward or forward, nor could I control them in any other way than by withdrawing from the table. Sometimes the power thus baffled would attack my tongue or my eyes or my ears, and I talked and I saw and heard differently from my normal state. Y'all heard, not heard, but y'all seen Transformers. Remember, I think it was the second one. Remember when he went off to college and he was in his room and he had like this little fit that overtook him, and he started drawing all these symbols. He didn't know what was happening. So, I mean, not as crazy as that, it's the movies, right? But things like that really do happen, right? So he started writing out these, and he started seeing all these symbols. He started hearing things. It's like the closest thing that I can remember at this point from movies that most of y'all have probably already seen. Everybody probably seen Transformers, right? Y'all done seen now, so y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay. So it's kind of like that, but it's not like as crazy as that, at least in my experience, right? It's not like crazy, like somebody looks at you like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? No, it just kind of like comes and you like flow in it, and you just, movies really hype stuff up sometime, and you don't really be looking crazy for real unless you got the personality to act crazy all the time. Then that craziness looking is just probably you're overdoing with your personality. Y'all get it? Okay, hold on. Sometimes the power, thus baffled, would attack my tongue or my eyes or my ears, and I talked and saw and heard differently from my normal state. Then I went to work in earnest to investigate spiritualism, and I investigated over 200 mediums, traveling hundreds and hundreds of miles for this purpose. Often I took them to my own house and experimented with them to my heart's content. I found that nearly all of them were subject to this involuntary movement of hands or to entrancement. They told me it was angels controlling them. In course of time, about 10 or 15 years, I began to believe in spiritualism, but I was not satisfied with the communications. I was craving for the light of heaven. I did not desire communications from friends or relatives or information about earthly things. I wished to learn something about the spirit world, what the angels did, how they traveled, and the general plan of the universe. So after a while, I took it into my hands that wise and exalted angels would commune better with us if we purified ourselves physically and spiritually. Then I gave up eating flesh and fish, milk and butter, and took to rising before day, bathing twice a day, and occupying a small room alone, where I sat every morning half an hour before sunrise, recounting daily to my Creator my shortcomings and governing myself in thought and deed. Now I highlight this. When I read this, I'm like, yo, bro was on to something, right? Because remember, when I tell y'all, like when you start fasting, the spiritual realm converges and converses with you when you clean yourself up, right? Like literally, when you fast, if you have a gift, that stuff begins to come alive after, like if you do straight water, in my experience, you can fast different things, but when you go like straight water or coconut water, things begin to really come alive. Your gifts are beginning to be amplified, I'd say, after the first week. If you're a dreamer, your dreams will just go off the charts to where every time you close your eyes, and even before you close your eyes, you can just sit there and you will go into like this trance-like state, or you will see something opening up before you. Like all of this stuff begins to happen when you clean yourself up. And he just decided to practice it. This is what we know by practice. Practicing on purpose happens. He figured it out. Nobody had to tell him. He just was like, I want to hear more from you. I want to know what's really happening. So the only thing he could think to do was, okay, let me just do things other people might not necessarily be doing. I'm going to just kind of clean myself. I'm going to make myself clean. Maybe that's what you're waiting for. Somebody clean. So I'm going to clean myself in every way, and I'm going to rise early to hear. And when we do that, even when you practice this on purpose, when you rise early, when you cleanse yourself, when you stop eating things that weigh you down, that's when the spirit of Yah tends to show up, right? I'm going to read this again. So after a while, I took it into my head that wise and exalted angels would commune better with us if we purified ourselves physically and spiritually. Then I gave up eating flesh and fish, milk and butter, and took to rising before day, bathing twice a day, and occupying a small room alone, where I sat every morning half an hour before sunrise, recounting daily to my Creator my shortcomings and governing myself in thought and deed, or rather, what we understand, in repentance. Father, forgive me for my sins, right? Recounting daily to my Creator my shortcomings and governing myself in thought and deed. In 6 years training, I reduced myself from 250 pounds down to 180 pounds. My rheumatism was all gone, and I had no more headache. I became limber and sprightly. A new lease of life came to me. Anybody that got headaches or deal with migraines, removing flesh, all that stuff from your diet will kill the headaches. I know from personal experience, I used to suffer from migraines. Matter of fact, that's why I am service disabled. I have the certification from the military as service disabled, right? They like issue me prescription. I mean, they issue prescription for Motrin for everybody, but I would have to go to medical a lot because of migraines, right? And when I finally did get out, they actually gave me a service disabled rating when I got out. But when I went plant-based, all the migraines went away. I have not had a migraine since then until I got the vid last year. We'll be at April, early this year. Yeah, but that was the first time, and I got out the military in 2003. Since then, when I went plant-based. I'm sorry. I got out the military in 2003. I went plant-based, like complete straight vegan in 2010. Yeah, because I was pregnant with Josh. Yeah, so yeah, there was a big little time span. So at 2010, when I went cold turkey, migraines from that point have been non-existent in my life. So just in case anybody suffers with migraines, think about what you're taking in your body, because it has 100% all to do with why you have them. Audrey, shalom. Alicia, yeah. Hey, girl, hey. Okay. In 6 years training, meaning 6 years of practicing this, cleansing himself, putting away all this stuff, spending time getting up a half hour early, praying, after 6 years. In 6 years training, I reduced myself from 250 pounds down to 180. My rheumatism was all gone, and I had no more headache. I became limber and sprightly. A new lease of life came to me. Then a new condition of control came upon my hands. Instead of angels holding my hands as formerly, they held their hands over my head, and they were clothed with sufficient materiality for me to see them, and a light fell upon my hands as they lay on the table. In the meantime, I had attained to hear audible angel voices near me. I was directed to get a typewriter, which writes by keys like a piano. This I did and applied myself industriously to learn it, but with only indifferent success. For 2 years more, the angels propounded to me questions relative to heaven and earth, which no mortal could answer very intelligently. I always look back on these 2 years as an enigma. Perhaps it was to show me that man is but an ignoramus at best. Perhaps I was waiting for constitutional growth to be good. Well, one morning, the light struck both my hands on the back, and they went for the typewriter for some 15 minutes very vigorously. I was told not to read what was printed, and I had worked myself into such a religious fear of losing this new power that I obeyed reverently. The next morning, also before sunrise, the same power came and wrote, or printed rather, again. Again, I laid the matter away very religiously, saying little about it to anybody. One morning, I seemed accidental to me, looked out the window and beheld the line of light that rested on my hands, extending heavenward like a telegraph wire towards the sky. Over my head were 3 pairs of hands, fully materialized. Behind me stood another angel with her hands on my shoulders. My looking did not disturb the scene. My hands kept right on, printing. For 50 weeks, this continued every morning, half an hour or so before sunrise, and then it ceased, and I was told to read and publish the book OAHSPE. The peculiar drawings in OAHSPE were made with pencil in the same way. A few of the drawings I was told to copy from other books, such as Saturn, the Egyptian ceremonies, etc. Now, during all the while I have pursued my vocation, dentistry, nor has this matter, nor my diet, vegetables, fruits, and farinaceous foods, detracted from any of my health or strength, although I have continued this discipline for upwards of 10 or more years. I am firmly convinced that there are numberless persons who might attain to marvelous development if they would thus train themselves. Remember how we always talk about discipline, people? Y'all got to find something and be disciplined. Then all the light of heaven will shine down on you and give you revelation. I'm still in the process of doing it, right? Trying to train myself to get up even earlier, right? A strict integrity to one's highest light is essential to development. Self-abnegation and purity should be the motto and discipline of everyone capable of angel communication. Good morning, baby. Yours truly, J.B. Newbro. All right, beautiful people. And that is the end of the introduction. I know it took us to 45 minutes, but I wanted to finish it. I didn't want to read it and just leave the letter off. So,
you done already?
Well, we done with the OAHSPE. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. It was really enlightening. It was really good. Okay, now let's hop on over to the meditation book, and we pause on page 28. But I said I was going to go back up and reread the Netarianism, the oldest religion in history. Guys, can y'all step out for just a few minutes? I'll be done shortly. Okay. All right, so Netarianism, the oldest known religion in history. The term Netarianism is derived from the name Shatu Neter. Shatu Neter means the hidden divinity. It is the ancient philosophy and mythic spiritual culture that gave rise to ancient Egyptian civilization. Those who follow the spiritual path of Shatu Neter are therefore referred to as Netarians. The fundamental principles common to all denominations of ancient Egyptian religion may be summed up in 4 great truths that are common to all the traditions of ancient Egyptian religion. Okay, so here is the hieroglyphs I was telling you about yesterday, right? So they show it to you, but they translate it under the bottom. So I'm going to show y'all this for just a few seconds. Hold on. I'm showing it on Facebook, the full page first. So if you don't have it, go ahead and screenshot it real quick. For Facebook. Okay, now for YouTube, screenshot it if you can. Just in case you ain't got the book. Okay. Now I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read the translation. Maybe I'll read the words too. I don't know. Okay. The first line is what? Okay. Ma'er in Shatu Neter, which is translated to mean great truths of the Shatu Neter religion. The second line, actually, no, that was the very top. Hold on. Yeah, the very top, maybe it was the introduction. Then you have 1, and under 1, you have Pa Neter Ua Neberger in Neteru. And that means the Neter, the supreme being, is one and alone, and as Neberger, manifesting everywhere and in all things in the form of gods and goddesses. Then you have number 2. And Ma'at Sway Sawe Set Sikim. Lack of righteousness brings fetters to the personality, and these fetters cause ignorance of the divine. Yo, that is good. The next one is Sa'ushu Sanafu in Sa'u Set, and it's translated, devotion to the divine leads to freedom from the fetters of Set. Or in Christianity, devotion to God breaks us free from the fetters or chains of Satan, right? The last line is Ari Shedi Rek Ab Im Ma'akaru, The practice of Shedi disciplines leads to knowing oneself and the divine. This is called being true of speech. Okay, and so the next page, when it talked about the four great spiritual truths, number 1 is Pa Neter Ur Neberger Im Neteru. The Neter, the Supreme Being, is one and alone, and as Neberger, manifesting everywhere and in all things in the forms of gods and goddesses. Neberger means all-encompassing divinity, the all-inclusive, all-embracing spirit which pervades all and who is the ultimate essence of all. This first truth unifies all the expressions of Khemet religion, or the religion of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, right? Okay. Number 2, and remember, just in case you're still a little caught up in the religious blindfolds, right? Remember, every time y'all's people got in trouble with him, where did he send them? He sent them into ancient Egypt, right? And now that we understand a little bit more of what ancient Egypt really was, we realize Jacob, or the nation of Israel, was an unruly child, right? Ancient Egypt was full of discipline, right? So it's like, we're going to send you to the hard taskmaster, right? Or somebody that's going to help whip you into shape. And they're the only ones on this earth at this moment that I can send you to, right? They was rebelling, doing all kinds of stuff. They just didn't want to do right. But ancient Egypt was blessed by Yah because of their discipline and their devotion to him, right? As we learn more about the ancient Egyptians, we realize that they were truly devoted to Yah. I'm just like, oh, why are they teaching it the way they teaching it to us today, where we're looking at Egypt like, oh, y'all is Satan's domain? I'm like, this is crazy. Okay. Number 2, and Ma'at Sway Sawi Set Sikkim. Lack of righteousness brings fetters to the personality, and these fetters leads to the ignorance of the divine. When a human being acts in ways that contradict the natural order of nature, negative qualities of the mind will develop within that person's personality. These are the afflictions of Set. Set is the Neteru of egoism and selfishness. The afflictions of Set include anger, hatred, greed, lust, jealousy, envy, gluttony, dishonesty, hypocrisy, etc. We also see these in the New Testament as well. We see them in the Old Testament, but everybody probably remembers them first from being spoken about in the New Testament, right? Fruits of the Spirit, and those who are lacking fruits of the Spirit, and what those are. So to be free from the fetters of Set, one must be free from the afflictions of Set. The third Neterian great truth, Sho'ushu Sanafu in Saul Set. I'm probably saying this wrong, but if y'all got the book, y'all can see. Devotion to the divine leads to freedom from the fetters of Set. To be liberated, Nafu, freedom to breathe, from the afflictions of Set, one must be devoted to the divine. You have to be devoted to Yah. To be freed from Satan, you got to be devoted to Yah, right? That's simply what it's saying if you're a Christian. To be liberated, or Nafu means freedom or to breathe. To be liberated, Nafu, freedom to breathe, from the afflictions of Set, one must be devoted to the divine. Being devoted to the divine means living by Ma'at, M-A-A-T. Ma'at is a way of life that is purifying to the heart and beneficial for society as it promotes virtue and order. Living by Ma'at means practicing Shedi, spiritual practices and disciplines. Uashu means devotion to the classic pose of adoring the divine is called Dua, D-U-A, standing or sitting with upraised hands facing outward towards the image of divinity. And the fourth great Neterian truth is Eri Shedi Rek'ab Ma'ak Haru. The practice of the Shedi disciplines leads to knowing oneself and the divine. This is called being true of speech. Doing shedi means to study profoundly, to penetrate the mysteries, shatu, and discover the nature of the divine. Kind of like what we're doing. We're practicing shedi, right? We're studying. Doing shedi means to study profoundly, to penetrate the mysteries, shatu, and discover the nature of the divine. There have been several practices designed by the sages of ancient Kemet to facilitate the process of self-knowledge. These are the religious shatu traditions and the sima, smai, twa, yogic disciplines related to them that augment the spiritual practices. All the traditions relate the teachings of the sages by means of all the traditions relate the teachings of the sages by means of myths related to particular gods or goddesses. So they're teaching you with stories. Same thing they do in the Bible, right? Same thing. They took it all from ancient Kemet, right? It is understood that all of these Neteru are related, like brothers and sisters, having all emanated from the same source, the same supremely divine parent, who is neither male nor female, but encompasses the totality of the two, right? Just like you see us male and female, we are the best portions of our Creator divided into two, right? And if you're just looking at humans, we're divided into two. You got male and female, but you bring them together, they make something complete, the bigger picture, as you can see that expanded outward into all parts of nature, right? Okay. The great truths of Netarianism are realized by means of 4 spiritual disciplines in 3 steps. The 4 disciplines are Rek Shedi, which means wisdom, Ari Shedi, which means righteous action and selfless service. The next one is Uashu Ushet Shedi, which means devotion, and Ua Shedi, which means meditation. And so it gives these charts. Forgive the drawings. Bella was helping me study. Okay, so it breaks it down, right? So it's the 4 disciplines, but with what they said, the 3 is realized in 3 steps, right? And so they break it out like this. If you got the book, you will see. And so we'll go. And so it's, what is it? It's listen, ritual, meditate, right? The same process that you will learn how to do literally by default as you begin to study the Bible. You taking in the raw data, right? So that would be to listen. And then you begin to assimilate it, think about it, roll it around in your mind, doing more research. That would be like ritual, right? And then you meditate on it. You just let it sink in where it's like fully assimilating into you, where you then can see actual results of what you've been studying and putting into practice. Okay, so let me read it. Okay, so the 3 steps are listening, ritual, and meditation. And it's Sijum Rek Shedi. Sijum Rek Shedi, listening to the wisdom of the Netarian traditions, right? So then with the bullet points under it, it has Shetu as Sar. Then it has across from it what that is. Shetu as Sar is the teachings of the Asarian tradition. Then the next bullet point is Shatu and Nu. And then it's the teachings of the Raw tradition. And then you have Shatu Menifer, the teachings of Patah tradition. And then you have Shatu Waset, which is the teaching of the Amun tradition. Then you have Shatu Netrit, the teachings of the Goddess tradition. Then Shatu Atan, the teachings of the Atan tradition. So remember what it said, it's taking all these principles, putting them in story form, in the forms of gods and goddesses to teach you about the overall divinity of our Creator. Each aspect of the Creator is put into a god or a goddess, right? Give them characters, names. It'll help you to remember the principles by putting them in story form, making characters out of them. But over time, people have begun to worship the characters that were created. You know, y'all get it, right? That's not how it was designed from the beginning. Each god or goddess is an attribute of the great Creator or the great Spirit, whatever you desire to call him, right? Him, her, it's a combination of all, the great spirit, all, right? Okay. So the next Shedi, and that was what I just read, that was the listen portion of studying, right? And so then the next portion is the ritual, and that's Ari Shedi. Ari Ma'at Shedi, or righteous actions, right? So you listen, you get righteous, you do the righteous actions, right? So righteous actions purifies the gross impurities of the heart, right? So during the ritual portion, under that first portion, it's Ma'at Shedi, which means true study of the ways of hidden nature of Neteru. Then you have Ma'at Akhu, true deeds that lead to glory. And then you have Ma'at Aru, it's true ritual. And then the second part in the second block of the 3 in ritual, it has Ushet Shedi, devotion to the divine, purifies the emotional impurities of the heart. And how do we do that? It lists 3. It's Shammai, which is divine music. Then you have number 2, Sema Puat, is meditation in motion. And then you have Neteru Arit, which is divine offerings, and that's selfless service and virtue. Right? Okay. So that was the first 2. We did the listening, then the ritual, and then it's the meditation portion of Shedi. And then it's called Ua Shedi. Ua Neteru Shedi. Meditation, experience the transcendental supreme self. The 5 forms of Neterian meditation discipline include Arat Sekhem, meditation on the subtle life force, the spirit, the Kundalini, right? Then you have Ari Sma Ma'at, meditation on the righteous action. Then you have Nuk Pu Ushet, meditation on the I am. Nuk Ra Aku, meditation on the glorious light. And then the last one is Rekhem, meditation on the wisdom teaching. Where we at? An hour. Okay, and so I'll do this last little part over here that's a part of this, and we'll pause because we're at an hour. Okay, and so this page here, you got great teaching, Shedi disciplines. Okay, so I'm going to read that to you. Okay, so great truth number 1 is God is one and in all things manifesting through the Neteru, right? Yah is one and he manifests himself through the Neteru. The Neteru are those who are the creations of the great Neteru. Yah will be the Neteru. We are his Neteru, right? So God is one and in all things manifesting through the Neteru. And the Shedi discipline for 1 is listen to the wisdom teachings, become wise, right? You can listen to Proverbs, Psalms, or what other wisdom teachings of Solomon or that you find in the Egyptian Proverbs. All of those, that's how you begin to develop that first great truth. The Yah is one and he manifests himself through us, right? Listen to the wisdom teachings and become wise. Learn the mysteries. Girl, what is you doing? Okay, well, turn it off for a second. Turn it off. Yep. Don't drop it. Hold on. Stop. We'll do this in a second. I'm almost done. Give me I think about 5 minutes. You get some tea in a minute. Hold on, because I got to wash it out for you. I'm going to send you upstairs. Okay. So for the first one, listen to the wisdom teachings, become wise, learn the mysteries as taught by an authentic teacher, which allows this profound statement to be understood. So you need to make sure you get a good teacher until your invisible teachers show up. And teachers could also be books, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a human person, but your great teachers could also be wisdom that was written by somebody who was full of wisdom, that's taking that wisdom and put it into a book, right? Just like what we do with the Bible. Take the Torah, we put it in us. The Torah is our teacher, right? So that's how you begin operating in the great truth or the Shedi discipline 1, that God is one. He's Echad. Yah is one, right? Okay. Great truth number 2. Unrighteousness brings fetters, and these cause ignorance of the truth, right? So ignorance will cause you to be in denial of number one, that God is one, that Yah is one, right? Unrighteousness brings fetters, and these cause ignorance of truth, number one. And the Shedi discipline to help you to develop, to not be an ignoramus to truth, is acting, living by truth. Apply the philosophy of right action to become virtuous and purify the heart. All right? Okay, great truth number 3. Devotion to God allows the personality to free itself from the fetters. We talk about discipline. Devote yourself to Yah, to God. Whatever title you want to put on him at this point, we should be past the names and all that stuff, but we're talking about the Great Spirit, right? Devotion to God allows the personality to free itself from the fetters. And the Shedi discipline to help that to manifest in you is devotion to the divine. Worship, ritual, and divine love allows the personality to be purified by truth, to eradicate the subtle ignorance that binds it to mortal existence. Now, I got something I want to share with y'all that I didn't think I was going to share with y'all. Okay, so a couple days ago, I was just reminded of this just now. Okay, so remember how we was talking about music, and clearly we know, like, first of all, when you break free from religious tradition out the church, you kind of start going through your music, right? And everything at first, when you was like, well, that wasn't his name, Jesus, I'm getting rid of all the Jesus music. Not that you're getting rid of worship music, but you're trying to be really specific about what you're listening to, and you don't want to put anything false into you. Thereby, you remove all the songs that saying the name Jesus. If it ain't saying Yah or Yahuwah or Yahusha, you're removing it and strike that from the list. And I kind of went through that whole phase. And then it's like, okay, so we love it. It's like me and my husband, we like listen to love songs and stuff. So I added love songs. I'm like, yeah, just free. I'm like, okay. At first, I was scared to kind of listen to this for fear that Satan would take over me for listening to this. Now, clearly, I know that there's some music that we shouldn't be listening to. I.e., I'm going to just give a couple, like some music by Eminem, right? The frequencies that is used with the music he makes, I ain't going to say all of it. I don't listen to all of it, but some that I have listened to, it literally will cause your skin to crawl. It does something to the spirit, right? And musicians, most of them know, and those who are designing and creating the beats and stuff, if they understand frequency, they know what they're doing with the music, right? And it comes in and it disrupts your spirit. So I know that music is still a big no-no. Even though I'm broke free from the chains of the church, there's still certain music that I know is a big no-no, right? And I don't do it. But there is also, I love R&B. I love rap, right? So some of it I add it back into my, and I be listening to it. But there is, I'll say, and I don't know which of the 3 it was, but I just know when I started listening to these 3, I had a dream. It's crazy. I had a dream. It was like 3 dreams back to back, and I could hear the spiritual realm saying, do not listen to that music. Do not listen to that music. Do not listen to that music. Like 3 times. And I'm like, what music? So I woke up. Look. Don't look at me a certain type of way, y'all. Because, okay, so one of them was the baby. Another one, which I couldn't quite really understand, was T.I. I'm like, T.I.'s music it's a complete opposite of the baby's music, but I like the beats and stuff. I was like, I couldn't understand. I was like, okay, clearly it must be something in his music that I really don't understand yet. Them, and it was, what was a few of them I was listening to? But the other one, what is the, it was another one. Darn, it's right down the tip of my tongue. But anyway, that's neither the point. But anyway, because of this particular thing right here, this particular Shetty in my study and what I'm doing and how I devote myself to y'all, I'm not saying y'all don't. I'm just telling you what happened to me. Now, you can take the wisdom, use it for yourself, but I'm not saying that's not a prescription for you. That was a direct prescription for me. Do not listen to that. Do not listen to that. Do not listen to that. Like, clearly. Like, I heard it even when I was waking up, like it was reverberating in me. Like, do not listen to that. Do not listen to that. Do not listen to that. Now, there are other artists, R&B, that I've listened to, like over the last few years that no red lights come on. But these particular three ones, like, do not listen to them. Right? I'm like, okay. Because I realized after a little bit more study over the last couple of days, I'm like, oh, okay. I see why. Eventually, I may not see it now, but it will. If I keep on, if I ignored that wisdom, it would disrupt me down the line somewhere. In this particular portion of my studies and my worship and my devotion, especially also because I'm also a Nazarite, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I understand now. And so look, so for literally the last 3 days now, I drive with no music, because I put on, I bump it in the car. And some stuff you can't listen while you got the kids in the car, so it's like you to put it on the headphones. But when you got the headphones on, it's like you're pumping this stuff inside your spirit, and it's like all going in. Or if I'm out driving the car, I bump it, So it's like, do not listen to that. Like, I heard it, like it was like an angel, somebody, it's themselves right there. That's how clear it was. Do not listen to that music. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I wanted to share that. Okay, so with that particular shading, number 3, because of what it does, right? Listen, I'm gonna read it again. Number 3, the great truth: devotion to God allows the personality to free itself from the fetters, right? And if you think about some of the, especially like Eminem or some of them other ones, people listen to, when people get sad, they tend to listen to music that makes them sadder. There are certain music that will lead people into a depression. Some music will lead people to suicide. It's the frequencies behind it. Now I understand it a whole lot better than what I did before, right? Okay, I'm gonna read it again. I know I done read it like 10 times. Devotion to God allows the personality to free itself from the fetters. And the discipline, the shady discipline that helps you to do that, for that to manifest in you, is devotion to the divine. Worship, ritual, and love allows the personality purified by truth to eradicate the subtle ignorance that binds it to the mortal existence. But if you take that and go back over here to the ritual portion on the page we just read, that particular portion, devotion to the divine, it has divine music, meditation, emotion, and divine offering. So music plays a big part in your consecration to your creator. We absolutely have to be careful about what we allow to go into us, because it will change us. And it should be to change us on the better side of things, not to take us back into bondage of which we seek freedom from, right? So I just felt like I needed to share that, because I didn't think I was going to share it. I just kind of cut it out altogether. All right, baby. Okay, and this last one. 4, the shady disciplines are the greatest form of worship to the divine. And then the shady discipline for that, which we've been learning about for months, is meditation. Allows the whole person to go beyond the world of time and space and the gross and subtle ignorance of the mortal human existence to discover that which transcends time and space. And then after that, right? Okay, so this goes with this, right? So you kind of got to reference the points here. So once you are going through this process here, and once you get to the meditation, and once you have been meditating for a while, then the arrow goes here, right? And that is what? We know that symbol to be the third eye, right? The eye of enlightenment. Your spiritual eyes become open, and you begin to see the unseen realm. So it is really important, that we understand these things, right? And this says, under the eye, it says, great awakening occurs when all of the great truths have been realized by perfection of the shady disciplines to realize their true nature and actually experience oneness with the transcendental supreme being who we refer to as Yah, right? Or the Neteru, right? And we are the Neteru. So, y'all, this is very important. Let's make a little note. This is very important to remember, right? I cannot stress this enough. Screenshot it if you ain't got the book. I'm going to leave it up here for a second. Hold on a minute. Make sure y'all can see it. Hold on. Okay. For Facebook, you have to screenshot it and blow it up. Y'all need to study that.
Mom, I draw that here.
I mean, it should kind of, if you already been doing it anyway, it should already be a part of you. You know, but this just kind of breaks it out in a real easy form where you can look at it. Let me see. Hold on. This for Facebook. I know you two can't see it. Hold on. For Facebook. Screenshot it, y'all. Facebook.
No.
Stop, Tootie. Stop.
You have to go close.
Screenshot it. That way y'all can look at it and blow it up on y'all phone and see it. Okay? All right. So for YouTube, just in case you ain't got the book, screenshot that. Y'all really need to study that and understand that.
Mom.
Yes, baby.
You know this side draw up here?
Yeah, I know. They see. That's Bella's drawing, so, you know, she be helping me study sometime. All right. So with that being said, beautiful people.
No, that's a ship.
A ship? Okay.
So you can blast off.
So we can blast off. Oh, yeah. Yeah, these are definitely ships where we can blast off, baby. Okay, so we're going to pause right here. Tomorrow, it's going to get into the spiritual culture and purpose of life. The Shetu Neter. Men and women are to become God-like through a life of virtue and the cultivation of the spirit through scientific knowledge, practice, and bodily discipline. All right? And that's an ancient Egyptian proverb. All right, beautiful people. Let me put my page number 31. Hop down. Booty, hop down. All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. I know we were like 15 minutes over, but I want to make sure y'all had that. We're going to become better with our time. We're going to become better with our time, y'all. I'm trying to. I'm working this discipline thing out. Working it out with my own soul. Okay, y'all. So thank y'all for hanging out. It is Wednesday, April the 13th, 2022, day 81 of year 4. Reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1099. We read the rest of the introduction in the OAHSPE, page 15 to the other Roman numeral, XVIII. I ain't translated. Okay, tomorrow I'll know what that Roman numeral is after I look it up today. All right, and then we read the rest of this first section in the meditation book, pages 27 through 31. I hope y'all enjoyed it for today. I hope y'all got some wisdom for today that you can apply today for your life as we begin to go on. And
what's looking like that for?
No, I was just kind of, thank you. Cutting the light off. And y'all be blessed. Shayla, hey girl, hey. It's 17. Dana, it's page 17. Okay. XVIII. XV10, 5, 15, 16, 17. Wait, you sure that's 17 and not 18? Because it's 3 I's. It's XVIII. I is like 1, right? X is 10. V is 18. Okay, 18. Okay. XVIII is Roman numeral 18. Okay. Y'all gotta help us. Ain't nobody gonna be quizzing me on Roman numerals. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out. May y'all bless you and may your day progress in wisdom. May your days continually progress in wisdom as y'all leads you and guides you into all truth. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Go ahead, end it, cool. She in the Facebook.